Please welcome to the stage Secretary Tom Vilsack.
Good morning. 1 out of every 11 people in the world today faces hunger. And USDA takes very seriously its responsibility to provide food and nutrition security here and around the world. I want to thank the Clinton Global Initiative for the opportunity to discuss several of the strategies that we're employing at USDA to provide help and assistance. We're proud of our Food for Progress program, which provides and helps to build sustainable food systems around the world. Today, we're announcing an additional $218 million to invest in food and nutrition security in Benin, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Madagascar, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Tunisia. This resource is going to provide 315,000 metric tons of U.S. commodities for food programs. It will help over 200,000 farmers learn a little bit more about climate-smart agriculture, sanitary and phytosanitary standards, access to capital, and provide them an opportunity for trade facilitation. This complements a recent commitment made by USDA of $1 billion in a collaborative effort with USAID to provide a wide range of commodities grown in the U.S. to address hunger and food and nutrition insecurity in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. Hunger is a problem that is particularly challenging for children, and that's why we are proud of the McGovern-Dole program that helps to feed millions of children by providing food at schools, so youngsters get both a nutritional meal and an education. Today, here at CGI, we're announcing an additional commitment to that end with an investment of $248 million to fund children's activities and opportunities in Angola, Bangladesh, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Malawi, Guatemala, Rwanda, Guinea-Bissau, and Laos. This is going to help feed 1.2 million children at school. Over 2,800 schools will be impacted and affected, and it's an opportunity for over 37,000 metric tons of commodities to be provided. I think we also have as a responsibility the importance of reducing the risk of hunger and malnutrition that can result from the loss of production due to climate change and extreme weather conditions. Frankly, the world needs to figure out exactly what works and what doesn't work to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, sequester carbon, to mitigate and adapt to a changing climate. That's why the U.S. Department of Agriculture invested and is investing over $3 billion in 135 projects across the United States, impacting over 100 commodities in all 50 states, impacting as well roughly 198 climate-smart practices. We're paying farmers to embrace these climate-smart practices. We're measuring and monitoring and verifying the results of those practices, and then rewarding those farmers in addition to paying for the cost of those practices with premiums in the marketplace, essentially establishing a new commodity, a climate-smart commodity. From this initiative, we believe we'll learn a little bit more about what works and what doesn't work, and we look forward to sharing that information with the rest of the world. In addition to the Climate Smart Commodities Initiative, we're also targeting the use of our Inflation Reduction Act resources, which is an historic investment in conservation and regenerative agricultural practices. $19 billion will be invested over the next several years in these practices. And we're looking forward to learning more about what works and what doesn't through this process. We're investing $300 million in a concerted effort to do a better job of indeed measuring and monitoring and reporting and verifying these results. We're looking at ways in which we can learn a little bit more about soil health, a little bit more about what works in terms of greenhouse gas reductions, and provide additional information to the world through our International Climate Hub. Now, the International Climate Hub is a virtual location on the USDA website. It is providing information and tools and virtual events focused on encouraging a better awareness of what works and what doesn't work in the climate smart area. You can find this web site at climatehubs.usda.gov. Excited about the opportunity. So those two strategies, direct food aid and as well as investing in climate-smart commodities. A third strategy is public partnerships, an opportunity for us to spur innovation. For that reason, the USDA worked with their counterparts in the United Arab Emirates to establish the Aim for Climate initiative at the international level. We started with the notion of having partnerships between countries and between nonprofit organizations and entities in the private sector to try to see if we could encourage more innovation in the space of climate-smart agriculture. Proud to say that we now have over 600 partners who are part of Aim for Climate. 56 countries have agreed to be part of Aim for C. We now are investing in 78 innovation sprints in 4 different categories. We're looking at ways in which we can help smallholder farmers around the world with new tools and techniques. We're looking at ways in which we can reduce methane reduction. We're sponsoring innovations in emerging technologies, and we're sponsoring and encouraging more agroecology research. $17 billion has been committed in this initiative, and we're going to be transitioning to a plan to scale up these innovations. We're issuing a report today at the Council on Foreign Relations concerning the next steps in Aim for Climate, and we'll be launching at COP29 our Aim for Scale initiative. So that's another strategy. We're also investing in research at USDA, innovative research. We just recently announced an Innovation Challenge, which is a joint effort between USDA and the Foundation for Food and Agriculture, which is a private foundation funded in part by USDA resources. This foundation is working with us to create opportunities for additional research by younger PhDs, people that have received their PhD in less than 10 years, working on the next generation, if you will, of researchers and scientists, looking at ways in which we can learn more about the intersection between climate change, nutrition, and equity, focusing on methane and other strategies. Excited about this partnership as well as the partnership that we've developed with the FAR in our Efficient Energy and Fertilizer Challenge, which was announced at a recent COP. This is focusing on dynamic and disruptive research and looking at ways in which we can put together transdisciplinary teams to focus on ways in which we can provide additional opportunity. So in the brief time I have with you today, 4 significant strategies. Direct aid, which we're increasing today. Continued investment over the course of the next several years of developing climate-smart commodities across all of the commodities and livestock opportunities in the U.S. and sharing that information with the rest of the world. Promoting more public-private partnerships and scaling up the innovation that arises from those partnerships, and providing additional resources in investing in new technologies and disruptive research. At the end of the day, it is our hope that with U.S. leadership that we can galvanize the rest of the world so that speakers in the future at CGI can talk about fewer than 1 in 11 people in the country and the world today exposed to hunger and malnutrition. We can do better, and we are committed to doing so. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Jennifer from Common Future to the stage.
The current economic system does not work for everyone. Generations of Black and Indigenous communities have been and are currently intentionally locked out of wealth and power. In fact, without a change to the status quo, research from McKinsey & Company has shown that the Black-white wealth gap will cost the US GDP $1 trillion by 2028. At Common Future, we are making a more equitable economy possible by investing in solutions that advance racial equity. We prioritize Black and Indigenous communities and trust the wisdom of those most proximate. In our organization's 23-year history, we mobilized $280 million in capital toward the communities we serve. We now continue this commitment with a focus on building more equitable Black and Indigenous futures through the lenses of racial, economic, and climate justice. I'm Jennifer Juguna, And Common Future is announcing a Clinton Global Initiative commitment to action to launch the Community Credit Lab Fund, a $35 million fund to invest directly in Black and Indigenous leaders and communities and emergent economic models from land trusts to cooperatives and community-owned real estate. Our terms are patient, non-extractive, and flexible, with interest between 0 and 3%, and our underwriting incorporates character-based lending to reflect the inherent creditworthiness of these communities. Indeed, these investments are those we cannot afford not to take. Community Credit Lab Fund is inextricably linked to seeding a more equitable food system. Most recently, we've made investments in Fondo Solidario, a collaborative of Latina growers in the Central Coast of California, the Equitable Food-Oriented Development Collaborative, a practitioner-governed integrated capital fund supporting community-led, justice-first, food and agriculture products, and the Black Farmer Fund, which nurtures Black community wealth and health by investing in Black agricultural systems in the Northeast. To date, we have raised and currently have $10 million in assets under management. When fully funded, the Community Credit Lab Fund will allow us to reach an additional 1,700 businesses, impacting 5,000 individuals in terms of workers and families. Join us in closing the racial wealth gap and creating an economic system that works for everyone. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, Sohla El-Waylly.
Thank you to Jennifer and Secretary Vilsack. I'm Sohla El-Waylly, a contributor for New York Times Cooking, and I'm going to be your moderator today. And we're going to kick things off with our first panel, What's Working? Greenhouse Ag Tech Innovations. I'd like to introduce to the stage Emily Dinino from ThermoShade and Paul Smith of Aquagrain. Hello. So Emily, can you please give us a brief overview of the technology you've developed with ThermoShade?
Yes, so I started ThermoShade as my master's thesis, studying the problem of extreme heat and coming up with a solution to protect people and animals from heat stress. ThermoShade's mission is to make both rural and urban communities more resilient to climate change by providing a cooling alternative that is clean, effective, and affordable. ThermoShade is a high-tech, passive cooling shade panel that can be affixed to any outdoor structure and creates a shady space that feels up to 20 degrees cooler than under a basic awning. And we achieve this cooling with our patent-pending composite panel that primarily leverages phase change materials, which serve to absorb heat during the hottest part of the day and recharge overnight. We are using proven material science in a novel way to achieve superior cooling.
Now you have a pilot program set up to use this tech and test its agricultural application in the dairy industry. Can you share more about how you're hoping ThermoShade can support climate-resilient food systems?
Yes, so we're very excited about our pilot program that we have set up with Fresno State University in Central California. We're planning to test ThermoShade on their campus dairy at 2 key locations where cows experience heat stress. So the first is with milking cows, and heat stress is a leading cause of decreased milk production and increased disease. And the current solutions are large fans and water sprayers that use a lot of water and electricity, and all the excess water also breeds disease. And the second is with the dry cows. These are cows that are about 60 days out from giving birth, or not milking anymore. And for them, heat stress can cause them to lose their pregnancies, it can cause early delivery, and that has long-term health impacts for both the cow giving birth and the baby. And so when we think about climate-resilient food systems, we think about a herd that can replenish itself, cows that are healthy and producing. And so with ThermoShade, we see an opportunity to protect cows from heat stress, to reduce our dependence on these dwindling and unreliable resources, and to improve farmer profitability.
Thank you. Paul, can you please explain aqua grain technology and the potential of this solution?
Okay. Around the world, the meat, poultry, fish, and dairy industries produce millions of tons of organic waste. And we're really talking about carcass waste. Much of that is incinerated, which obviously emits CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. But a considerable amount of that also goes to landfill, creating methane, which is clearly worse. What we do at Aquagrains, we encapsulate that proteinous waste into a unique soil-improving, biodegradable polymer that absorbs and releases 30 times its volume in water. So what you have essentially is a spongy reservoir of food and drink for plants. The difference is that it doesn't drain away in sandy substrates and hot, arid lands, and it stays there so the plants can tap into that. You either irrigate it with sophisticated irrigation systems or rain-fed crop systems. We've delivered a 40% increase in rain-fed cereals in the Middle East, and we've also increased groundnut yields in North Nigeria by 100% using Aquagrain.
So right now you're working in the UAE, but the technology is very portable. What are your hopes for expansion and scale to other countries and regions where this technology could help promote sustainable food systems?
Okay, well, we're currently working in the UAE because we won the 2023 Food Tech Challenge competition, the one that they announced on the main stage yesterday. We won that in 2023. So we're working on a project to build our first commercial scale production facility. That production facility will be around just under 5 tons a day, enough for 10 hectares of land for fertilizer. We designed our machinery to be moved on the back of 2 40-foot trucks, so it's movable, it's scalable, you can add extra modules to it, it's plug and play, it works on sustainable energy, renewable energy, you could plug it into a solar panel and make it run. You could scale it more. The other aspect of impact is that we can't deliver any impact unless we can scale, and we would need regional partners around the world in order to establish local production facilities. In sophisticated food markets, we work in a highly regulatory field, so we would need partners that understand the regulatory environment that we're operating in. And ultimately, we'll probably work with high GDP countries to start with, but making sure that we make provision within our business to get Aquagrain to the people that need it most and can least afford to have it. As far as we're concerned as a company, food, water, and shelter are 3 fundamental human rights, and we would do our level best to get the Aquagrain to the people who need it most.
Did you bring something to demo?
I did, yes. I mean, Aquagrain is a very simple product for the farmer. It's just like any other granular, inert fertilizer. You just mix it with a substrate. And for anyone who's interested afterwards, I put some in water about 20 minutes ago, and you can see it's already absorbing into its jelly stuff. And please see me afterwards if you're interested in looking. Thank you.
Thank you. This question's for both of you. How are you approaching partnership development to help scale your work? Emily, go for it.
So we are looking at partners on multiple levels. We've relied on them to get where we are at this point. We've been very lucky to have the support of Fresno State, did their Valley Ventures Accelerator program, and now doing this pilot, we're going to be able to partner with faculty and students who can help support in collecting data and ensuring that we have some kind of third-party validation to be able to then go to market with our technology. And we're also, looking for grants to support our work. We have a grant right now from the California Energy Commission and private funding sources as well to continue our deployment.
Thank you.
For us, scaling and partnerships is a question of managing sort of limited resources as a startup company. We've had conversations with large food manufacturers like Australian cattle producers, and I dare say there'll be similar types of producers in different parts of the world. Large agricultural organisations where water stress is a major problem for agriculture and horticulture, so we'd like to partner with those. But we've had a number of conversations, and we are building an increasing list of people desperate to be first at coming second after we've built our first commercial scale production plant.
What are your biggest challenges to scaling right now?
Well, it's always going to be finance. Whilst we have an extremely simple product to use for the farmer, you just mix it with the substrate, it's actually a very sophisticated manufacturing process. So we have quite sophisticated manufacturing machinery to do that, and there is a capex cost for doing that. So that is our major stumbling block at the moment, which is what we're overcoming in the United Arab Emirates.
Emily, would you say it's the same?
Yeah, I feel like we have done the work too. We have our MVP panel design now. We've found a fantastic contract manufacturer that makes. They have a subsidiary making solar shade structures, and so we can easily slot our panels into that. Offer combined structures, offer structures that are just featuring our panels, and so we work to get those resources lined up, and then it's having the funding to activate them fully. To really be able to ramp up production and meet the needs of these different markets.
Is your goal to expand beyond the dairy industry?
Yeah, so we have another pilot lined up with a transit shelter. Bus stops are a big target area for us, as well as school playgrounds.
Wait, in California? I think I've seen some of those. Mm-hmm. They're very low profile.
And so there was a California one implemented that got some bad press, the La Sombrita. And so we're working with another city to try and have a more effective bus shelter that provides meaningful cooling.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Do you have any final thoughts? We have a minute. We have 45 seconds.
Well, I think it's an honour to be here and to come to talk to you about what we're trying to achieve. For startups, it's hard. You develop breakthrough technology. Ours is particularly sophisticated and in a heavy regulatory environment. And it's a tough old road. And when you come here, you can feed off the energy of positive people. And know that that effort and energy that you're putting into this is worth it ultimately. And hopefully we can attract some support to deliver this and deliver the impact for the potential. There's 60 billion hectares of desert out there. 40% of the world's population live in them. There's stacks of scope to deliver impact with something that can relieve water stress. And I really welcome conversations that can help us deliver that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll just echo that with saying, finding partners who really believe in innovation and are willing to take risks and pilot your technology and support it mean everything and are huge for early stage companies like ours.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next, I'd like to introduce to the stage Jacqueline Novogratz, the CEO of Acumen. Whichever your heart desires.
I think I'm here.
Yeah, is that the seat that calls to you? Should we scooch?
No, but that's where I'm supposed to sit. Good to meet you.
So next, I'd like to introduce first partner Jennifer Siebel-Newsom from the state of California. Hi, nice to meet you. And Ayoola Dominic, founder and CEO of Koolboks. So you're all working to drive progress across sectors to build more resilient food systems. Jacqueline, Acumen has pioneered a patient capital model to invest in social entrepreneurs around the world who are tackling poverty. Many of the social entrepreneurs you work with focus on building more resilient food systems. Can you share how Acumen's work in the food and ag sector has expanded since you founded Acumen and how you see it continuing to grow?
Well, sure. Well, I've got a great example sitting right here. We started investing in food systems probably in 2002, 2003, when we were trying to understand drip irrigation. And while many of our early investments failed, what it taught us was how to start with the smallholder farmers, understand their problems, understand their desires, and build from their perspective, not from our perspective. And over time, while keeping the farmers at the center, then being very clear and honest about the kinds of capital that were needed to actually allow them to succeed, given that they're selling to very poor people. And we'll hear about Koolboks. To skip all of the pounds of flesh that I've lost over 20 years, to where we've expanded. We've really learned how to do this now, and the world has fundamentally changed. We have the technologies. There's much more openness to the way that we can stack capital, blend capital. And we're starting to see private sector initiatives fundamentally shape systems and therefore drive new policies, whereas it's too often been the other way around. So one quick example, since we're going to talk about energy and food systems, this is when we think about adaptation, resilience, 600 million smallholder farmers, most of whom make less than $3 a day, produce 30% of our food. They are the least able to contribute to climate change, and they are the most impacted by it. And yet, we're not investing enough in them. So 10 years ago, we invested in a company that was trying to reform the Ethiopian chicken industry. At the time, most Ethiopians ate less than half a kilo of chicken per year and suffered 55% malnutrition rates amongst their children. So we took a bet on these two entrepreneurs that upended the more government-driven model of hatcheries and started with the farmers. What did they need? How could they understand how hard it is to actually raise a baby one-day chick to 45, 60 days, which is when chickens actually produce eggs? And it's a long story, but it's a 10-year story. Hard work, the right kind of capital. And today, Ethio Chicken, which is now a holding company called Hatch, operates in 6 African nations with 16,000 agents who are the ones to raise the chicks full time. They sleep with the chicks to make sure that this is their one job. It's not just trying to get a poor farmer fighting climate change. And they sold 54 million chickens to 4.5 million farmers who sold 5 billion eggs, 16,000 agents, 2,000 jobs. And in Ethiopia, in Tigray, which has gone through the civil war, the malnutrition rates of children have gone down by 11%, and government is proud to credit this private sector effort and then learn from it. That's the opportunity that we face if we don't do business as usual and we think about what it actually means to do adaptive investing rather than simply focus on mitigation. And when you're talking about smallholder farmers, there's no other game than adaptation, helping them deal with the floods and the drought. In 2 of our regions, Delhi and Karachi, to put a fine point on it, it was 127 degrees at one point this summer. Imagine that, no electricity, no fan, no cooling, no ability to bring water into your fields. That's what we have to deal with for the people who actually toil every day for our food.
So you're really letting these smallholder farmers lead the way.
We're letting the entrepreneurs who aren't coming in with easy solutions, but are what we would call have the financial and operational capabilities combined with the moral imagination to build companies that put the farmers squarely at the center. They listen to the farmers, and then they recognize the power of the food systems. And then we as investors will put the right kind of capital, sometimes 15 to 20-year equity and debt, but we also use our social capital. How do we help connect them to the government, to corporations, to individuals with the skill sets that can help them really succeed? And then they become part of an ecosystem, and that's a whole other question because I don't want to take everyone's time. But what I've seen, and this, I guess it's the last thing I'll say, is we started very humbly. We made every mistake in the book. 20 years later, we are emerging as one of the largest adaptive investors for smallholders in the emerging world, in the world. And that's a good news story for acumen, We're launching our first climate fund. Pakistan's first climate fund in its history. It's a really bad story for the world when you think about who the poor really are. And that big proclamations about the kind of money that's needed isn't the hard, gritty work of building companies. And that is at the heart of our food systems. And that's what we have to do a better job doing.
Well, so Ayoola, you are a social entrepreneur who has been supported by Acumen. Can you briefly explain what Koolboks does and how this work contributes to the food system resilience?
Oh, thank you very much. Just to give a brief context, there are over 600, just like Jacqueline said, there are over 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa that lacks access to electricity and therefore lacks access to refrigeration. And as compared to Europe and America, where you have 100% penetration in refrigeration, in sub-Saharan Africa, it's only 17%. I repeat, only 17%. And of course, that contributes to a lot of food wastage in the environment. So about 2 years ago, 3.5 years ago, myself and my colleague decided to found a company. Our goal was to make refrigeration affordable and accessible to everyone that needs it. So we've been hearing so much about let's light up Africa, but very few times you get to hear about let's refrigerate Africa. So using the sun and water, we created a solution that is able to generate refrigeration for up to 4 days, whether or not you have power, whether or not you have sunlight. And of course, the question is, what good is the technology if no one can afford it? So we integrate in every freezer of ours a pay-go technology, allowing small businesses to be able to pay in small installments for their refrigeration, as low as $10 a month. And that is how Acumen found us. And today, we've been able to empower over 6,000 small businesses across Africa in 26 countries, only in 3.5 years. So that's what we do. I don't know if that's elaborate enough. And we're an assembly plant, of course. We're setting up one of the biggest assembly plants for this unit in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a 72,000 capacity per annum assembly plant that we're about to launch, hopefully Q1 next year. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Jennifer, you have been a pioneer and advocate for California's Farm to School program, which is helping expand access to healthy, locally grown food for 2.8 million students since 2021. Yeah. How does this program support other government initiatives like California's Universal School Meals program? And how does this relate to climate-smart agriculture?
So basically, Universal School Meals and Farm to School are partners. They go hand in hand. And this was our impetus to ensure that the food that our kids were getting would be locally sourced and cooked in a scratch kitchen at the school district or actually at the school. And what we found is that through these investments of $52.8 million this year and almost $100 million in total, we've been able to meet communities where they're at and where their needs are with our investments, not just in schools and school districts and in local farmers and child care centers, but also in nonprofits that are helping create this systems change. What's been so exciting is that we have seen the impact of these investments such that not only are we introducing children who are future climate stewards to not just school gardens and the green schoolyard, but harvests of the month and fresh, nutritious meals. But we're training kitchen workers and staff through our investments, not just again in the training, but in the kitchen infrastructure. I was just at a Chef Ann Foundation event last week, a few days ago, where we're growing future food service workers. And then small and medium-scale farmers are beneficiaries of these investments, whereby they now, because our schools are the largest restaurant system essentially in California, they're guaranteed that revenue from food sales. And so it's just been this complete systems change piece that, again, has not just led to reduced transport of produce, which is less emissions, but also climate smart agricultural practices. 100% of our grantees are practicing climate smart agriculture. So obviously less emissions, less waste and processing, and greater less pesticide use, et cetera. But again, our kids are learning all of this through the school gardens, through culinary classes. And again, the reach has just been tremendous. We've invested with an equity focus. And so 42% of our, 96% of our beneficiaries are BIPOC. In fact, in California, 69% are actually Latino. So it's very exciting because we've had this equity lens that's merged with addressing, obviously, nutrition gaps and food safety gaps. And it's basically been a win-win for California school children, for California growers, and for workers in the local economy.
I'm from California, so I just remember eating burritos. So this sounds great. I wish I was a kid there now. Can you share more about how California is effectively partnering across sectors to support investment in equitable and resilient food systems beyond your work in schools?
Yeah, well, so to launch this, we pulled in partners from all different sectors to create this systems change piece, and we designed a roadmap after a year of intensive meetings, convenings, and research. So we launched this roadmap with an investment with our first tranche of $8.5 million into grantees, and then another $30 million into grantees the year after. We also, I knew this wasn't going to be effective unless I had an interagency working group. So while this initiative sits in CDFA in partnership with my office, we've brought Health and Human Services in, labor in, education, obviously, EPA, Cal Volunteers. Who else have we brought in? It's just been a real interagency working group, which actually nurtured and sort of inspired more interagency working groups across government and the various agencies, just given the fact that, as we all know, government can often operate in silos. So this was a big gift. And then essentially, like I said, the impact has been, money in the pockets of small scale farmers. All of those farmers are practicing climate smart agriculture. Training and skills in kitchen workers, a larger kitchen workforce, more investments in scratch kitchens and kitchen infrastructure, and then again, all the benefits to our children in consuming whole food, real food. We still have to do research on the health and human services impact of kids getting this whole food. There have been studies out there, but coming directly from our recent investments, that's sort of the next impact initiative that we have to evaluate. But essentially, it's just, you look at we all know I have 4 children. My youngest is 8. You look at the behavioral outcomes of eating whole food, real food, the educational outcomes, obviously the cognition, but then the mental health benefits of eating whole food. And then again, it's just been a win-win. It's a no-brainer, and it's something that we're hoping as California goes, so can go the country. We have a roadmap. We want to offer the roadmap to other states. Many states have tried to follow suit or are trying to follow suit. But again, it really takes commitment and investment in our children as future climate stewards and in local farmers, and obviously starting at the local level and really listening to the community, as you were saying earlier. What does the community need? 'Cause the community knows what it needs best, and really serving them, meeting them where they're at.
It seems like it's all hands on deck to make this happen. Yeah. Is there anywhere, more broadly, that you think that we need to focus investment?
Yeah, from our research, it's clear that we need to invest in food hubs. Refrigeration is actually really important for small and medium scale farmers, so even in California. So I appreciate what you're doing. You might have to come to California next. Kitchen infrastructure investments and training is essential. Workforce development training is essential. And the other, I mean, I would say that the other, I mean, obviously green schoolyards, I'm just trying to think of what else I'm missing here. But food hubs, kitchen infrastructure and training, and workforce development training. Oh, and just climate smart ag is the most important, I would say. As a former employee of Conservation International, I mean, if we're going to protect our climate, if we're going to have a future on this planet, we've got to start with kids, and we've got to start with farmers and ensure that they have the resources for soil health and the practices and the support that they need to continue to embody what it is required to be climate smart agriculturalists.
Thank you. Ayoola, as a social entrepreneur, you must work continuously to measure and validate your impact as well. How do you know Koolboks is working, and how are you approaching investment partnership opportunities to scale the work?
Oh, thank you. That's a good question. I'll start with one of my favorite quotes from someone that I truly respect, from YC. He said that the only way you know that you're adding real value is when you see how customers behave when your product is unavailable or your product malfunctions. So, so there was this fateful day. This is a real life incident, actually, where, I was just a short story, actually. So we had this investor that believed in us. We're one of those few startups, I'm sure we probably have this experience as well, that it's kind of hard for investors to understand the kind of problem we're solving, because a lot of times people tend to take refrigeration for granted. And like you rightly said, even in California, I never thought they would need refrigeration in California, for example. So there's a tendency to actually take it for granted. So it's kind of hard getting investors to understand what we're trying to do. And then we had this investor that went all the way, understands Africa beneath the skin, that's what I always say, and decided to invest in Koolboks. They traveled all the way. So one fateful day, they decided to come to Africa to say, okay, we've invested for over a year. Let's see the impact we're creating. And startups, of course, as a usual startup, the whole world is hovering up and down. The president is coming from New York, and now we have to fix the market. We are the market women. So we ran up and down trying to make sure things work, only for the women to get to the market and meet these market women, which are small businesses, and lo and behold, the women were crying. And not just mere cries, there was hard tears. And then, phone started ringing. Ayoola, where are you? We have the CEO of one of the investors in the market, and their customers are not happy. Everybody was running up and down. And the reality, the question was, what really happened? Apparently, 2 of those women had gotten the Koolboks freezer, and it worked really well for them. That was about 3-4 months back. So they placed orders for a new one and a refurbished one. But unfortunately, due to supply chain challenges, Koolboks didn't supply, we're out of stock. And of course, a few other H's. So the question is, how else would an investor appreciate the impact they're creating if not seeing it in real life, experiencing that impact? At first, we thought we were dead. But finally, we thought about it, and we thought that's the only way they can actually appreciate what we're doing. Because most times, it's usually hard, except they understand the market, to see the value they are adding. And that's one of the ways we measure our impact. Bring our investors into the market, meet with our customers, they understand. We use surveys. The kind of impact we measure, food waste is one of them. And of course, the person I'm talking about is here today, by the name of Jacqueline, actually. A true life story, actually, a very, very true life story. Coincidence that we're actually on the same panel, but this
First time. We don't do this as a regular act.
Yeah, that's weird, actually. So, but thank you very much for what you do, actually.
But Ayoola, if I could just jump in, because even to put a finer point, it was a really bad day if you were an investee, because at the time we were looking at another $1.5 million to put in, but what it did. And to put even a finer point, is that at the time Nigeria was experiencing a 70% depreciation rate. Inflation was through the roof. So refrigerators that 6 months ago cost $700 were now $2,400.
Yeah, approximately.
Nigerian women in Lagos, when they're market women, they can be very dramatic, as Malati knows. And so this wasn't even just they were angry. They were histrionic and throwing themselves over the refrigerator for good reason. Because this was to be in poverty or to somewhat make it. They were going to lose all of their stock. Their whole savings was going to be gone. And it was just this shared sense of this has got to get fixed like yesterday. Yeah. And I want to just connect it to another conversation I had not in Lagos, but in Kenya with another one of our companies. And I was talking to a smallholder farmer, and there were two girlfriends, Sarah and Faith. And I said, so how has this company changed you, really? Like, really? You can tell me the truth, because I'm not with those other guys. And and Sarah said, well, this company has taken me, has helped me get out of poverty. Now, I've been doing this work for 40 years, and so I've heard so many people tell me the stories they think I want to hear. And I said, what does that really mean? And how did you know when you crossed the poverty line? And Sarah said, well, I don't know if there's a real line. She said, but before, when I would wake up in the morning, all I felt was stress. I would be stressed that I didn't have food to feed my children. I didn't have money for the bus, so I couldn't get my vegetables to the market to send it. And then my husband would be angry, and I just felt stressed. And she said, now I wake up in the morning and I feel different, and I can even think about buying a dress. And I said, what's that feeling for you? And she said, I said, just find a word for me. And she said, I think that word is freedom. And for me, and it's how I felt with the market women, even though I was not very happy. I feel that we miss the point when we talk about big funds, but then we're still looking at big financial returns, rather than remembering that these are the people who toil every single day to give us our food and almost everything we use. And if this tiny change is the difference for them between unbearable stress and freedom, which I would call dignity, I just don't see why we're not doing more of it. And I bow down to the entrepreneurs in Nigeria and Pakistan and India and all of Colombia and in the United States who are taking on building businesses not to make money and get big, and we all celebrate them, but to solve the problems of poverty, because to me they are the superheroes of this generation, and the media could do so much more to celebrate them. And I love you as storytellers, and I got a lot of stories for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that story, and to all three of you. I'm so ready to invest in acumen. Take my money. But yeah, thank you so much. We have one more panel.
Thank you for leaving.
Thank you very much.
So next up, we have our. Oh. Yeah, okay, so now we have the privilege of hearing from two more CGI commitment makers. First, I'd like to welcome Rahwa Berhe, who is the founding member of the One Health Alliance, who made a commitment to promote One Health economic resilience in Tigray, Ethiopia.
%86%. That's the percentage of youth in the Tigray region of northern Ethiopia who have no hope. 86%. What happens when an entire generation believes that tomorrow holds little promise? This is the legacy of the deadliest war of the 21st century. 83%, the percentage of people who are food insecure. 70%, the percentage of crops and livestock looted or destroyed. 1 in 10, the number of women survivors of gender-based violence. 4, the number of psychiatrists serving 6 million people. Behind these numbers are real lives, people we know and love, our friends, our families. And we must act now to prevent further suffering and loss of life. My name is Rahawa Berha, and I'm a first-generation American of Ethiopian and Eritrean descent, and my family is from Tigray. During the war, many of us in the diaspora became involved to support our families by building information networks and providing financial assistance. And for the past 4 years, I've worked with survivors and community leaders in Tigray. And this is what I've learned. When we address issues in isolation, we get short-lived outcomes. In 2024, I founded the One Health Alliance because of the vital connection between people, animals, and the environment. In Tigray, this is not just a concept, it is a way of life. At One Health Alliance, we leverage community-driven, survivor-centered solutions with the expertise of regional and international partners. Each of these partners provide expertise in conservation, agriculture, entrepreneurship, and psychotherapy. Our partners include Vivo International, the Center for International Health LMU, We Forest, the Center for Trauma Management and Research, Ayoola University, and Permachive. That is why today, in partnership with the Clinton Global Initiative and our founding partners, I am proud to announce a commitment to action that will revolutionize how we approach recovery in Tigray and neighboring regions. And this is how we'll do it. Households are the linchpin of social and economic structures in Tigray. Over the next 5 years, we will empower 3,000 households in climate-resilient businesses like beekeeping, poultry farming, and agroforestry. We are committing $2.5 million to these initiatives, with more than half of the funding dedicated to supporting women-owned and women-led climate enterprises. Ultimately, we are creating a framework that regenerates both the social fabric of communities and the ecosystems they rely on. And it's a blueprint that can be applied to post-war recovery efforts around the world. For the past 4 years, the people of Tigray have been told to wait. Wait for peace, wait for justice, wait for resources, wait for change. 86% of Tigray's youth say they have no hope. And today, I invite you to join us in changing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Sabrina Yagela from Moving Windmills Project to speak to their commitment to driving economic inclusion through e-mobility in Malawi.
Hello, everybody. For context, picture walking 20 blocks down the New York pavement at the height of summer. No bus, no Uber, no bike share, no subway. So in 2001, a 14-year-old boy named William Kamkwamba built a windmill from scrap to save his family. What started as a desperate act of survival has become a global story of innovation and the inspiration for the Moving Windmills project. Today, that same spirit of ingenuity is alive in the work that we're doing at Moving Windmills, creating opportunities and empowering communities. But innovation cannot happen in isolation. In Malawi, communities are landlocked and disconnected. Without reliable transportation, crops spoil before reaching markets, farmers can't sell their produce, and economic opportunities slip through their fingers. Without mobility, young women struggle to access educational programs, missing out on opportunities to thrive. At Moving Windmills, we're committed to solving these problems through food innovation and mobility. We've built solar-powered hubs, providing essential resources, including clean water, electricity, education, and food. And we've launched programs like Lunch and Learn, where nutritious meals are paired with skills development. But this is just the beginning. Today, we're announcing a Clinton Global Initiative commitment to action to scale our electric mobility initiative, a network of electric vehicles, which will be expanded to include 30 new bikes, 48 new motorcycles, 5 new half-ton trucks, and 3 new multi-ton trucks. And these will help farmers transport their crops, ensuring that they reach the markets fresh and receive their fair value. It would also provide young women and others with safe, reliable transportation to access education and opportunities. At the heart of our vision is the Moving Windmills Innovation Center, which will connect our solar hubs and our mobility network. This center will drive economic empowerment, food security, and climate resilience for generations to come. But we cannot do it alone. We have the vision, we have the model, and we have the proof that it works. Now we need the power of this community to take it further. Together we can create a future where every community, no matter how remote, is connected to opportunity, where crops aren't wasted, and where young women can plan their own futures. At Moving Windmills, we believe that talent is universal, but opportunity is rare. This is your opportunity to be part of something bigger, to invest not just in a project, but in people, in their ability to create change that will ripple through generations. Please join us, and together we can transform lives, build resilience, and create a legacy that will inspire people for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. So for our final panel, what's working? Greenhouse economic empowerment through food. So our panelists are all developing climate-resilient food systems that, in the process, supports economic empowerment for local communities and entrepreneurs, farmers, and fisheries. I'd like to introduce to the stage Dave Grossman of Pana Sea Global, Sana Kadri from Diaspora Spice Co., and Kwabena Frimpong from Ignitia. Hello, how's it going? Dave.
Fantastic.
Can you give
Great
us
to be here.
Thanks for being here. Can you give us a brief overview of Pana Sea's work?
Absolutely. So we are the first sustainable commercial sea cucumber farm in the Western Hemisphere. You might be asking, what is a sea cucumber and why do I care? Well, we've been working at this for well over a decade because there's 5,000 years of demand in Asia, particularly in China, for sea cucumbers as a commodity, which is now able to be a climate-smart commodity, thanks to all the work that we've done and the scientists we're working with. And we have a $16 billion market of demand for sea cucumbers, and over the last 20 years, all of that demand has been met with exploitive and often illegal black market supply. This leads to a bit of a gold rush in typically disenfranchised fishing communities. So, for example, in the Bahamas, it took about 2 years for them to fish out basically all of the sea cucumbers in an area that's millions of square miles of seabed. So this is a bit of a brief boon for the local fishermen, and then it all goes away immediately. And we saw this as an opportunity about 10 years ago. We've been working in Latin America for over 10 years at this. And we said if we can sustainably produce sea cucumbers, then we will have an amazing market opportunity, and we will be addressing social challenges of fisher folk not having great opportunities with the oceans getting warmer and reefs dying. And most importantly, if we could crack this nut, it would be amazing. So we kind of went into our little Manhattan project, and over the last 7 years in Panama, we have devised a very, very efficient, super scalable model on the Caribbean coast of Panama, where we can produce millions of sea cucumbers, create tons of great jobs for the fisher folk in the area. And we're working with the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute and other collaborative scientists. We're helping demonstrate that this is an amazing solution to buffer against ocean acidification for coral reefs and help protect the erosion and just die-off of seagrass everywhere. So we're expanding now into places like the Bahamas that has 30% of the world's seagrass, looking at a very scalable platform that we have, which will bring tons of great jobs to the disenfranchised coastal communities, make seagrass 8 times healthier than it currently is, stop coral from dying. So yeah, and it's the most expensive seafood on earth, so I don't really see why we won't go big together.
Off topic, but what does sea cucumber taste like?
Sea cucumbers are kind of similar to tofu. They really don't have a strong taste, but they've been a climate smart commodity and delicacy in Asia for over 5,000 years. Not just because this is kind of a status symbol and it does taste great with whatever you cook it in, but there's amazing health benefits for sea cucumbers. It's been part of Eastern medicine for a long time. We actually have a sister biotech company called Immortal Oceans that focuses specifically on producing amazing supplements for human health, boosting libido, all sorts of great stuff.
It does it all.
The mighty sea cucumber does it all.
So it saves the oceans and boosts your libido. Great
This
stuff.
is all correct. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sana, can you please give us a brief overview of your work with Diaspora Spice Co?
Hi. Hi, everyone. So in short, essentially, Diaspora makes your food taste more delicious while making sure farmers thrive. But the long story is that I grew up in India in the 90s, about 50-ish years after my ancestors fought for independence from British colonizers. And for a lot of my childhood, the violence of colonialism was sort of like brushed aside. We were said, let's just move on. Like, let's focus on the future. And it was really only as a student of agriculture, I started learning about the scars of colonialism and like how deep those scars were. So I started researching the spice trade and was learning that, for spice farmers, middlemen and traders make all the money. Farmers are being pushed further and further into debt every single year. When the British were around, they really, really were pushing for profit over just about everything else. And so industrial monoculture was the norm. Sustainable land stewardship was not prioritized. I was realizing that 150 years later, like, this is still the norm in spice farming across India, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Vietnam. So how does that change, right? So 7 years ago, I was a 23-year-old, very idealistic, like punk art student who thought, give me a year and like I'll transform this. So the thought was, as a cook at the time, I was a line cook, how can I get access to more delicious, fresh ingredients, right? As a consumer, how can I have a brand that actually speaks to my values of progressivism and sustainability? And I think finally, as a South Asian woman who works in agriculture, how can I make sure that our farmers are like really profiting from this work and from like their life's work of growing food for us? I thought I could accomplish all that in a few months. It took 8 years, but now Diaspora Spice Co. is both direct-to-consumer spices to the world's best chefs, home cooks, Sohla, and also to about 500 stores all over the country. We've paid $2.5 million directly to farmers that I visit myself, my team visits. We know every single person in their family, what their names are. And those $2.5 million is usually on average 4x what they were earning before. So if they were earning an average of about like $6,000 to $8,000, they're now earning 4 times that, which is pretty remarkable for like a 7-year-old company that started with my tax refund and from somebody without generational wealth. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Qua bene. How do you spell say ignitia?
Ignitia. So,
Ignitia.
yeah,
Can you tell us a little bit about the work you do with Ignitia?
Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. So currently in sub-Saharan Africa, about 96% of the land under cultivation are practicing rain-fed agriculture. And this is largely dominated by smallholder farmers. And what makes it worse is that because they're practicing rain-fed agriculture, they don't have weather information to be able to know what kind of activities they have to do at any point in time. And for those who have weather forecasts, it's also not accurate. So we did spend about 5 years experimenting to really better understand how can we improve weather forecast in the tropics so that we can really then support smallholder farmers. So that was when we realized that there are not enough ground station data that you can use to do the forecasting. And we realized that if we really rely on real-time satellite data and with the emergence of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can really improve the accuracy of forecast. So that is what we do, and we now currently provide weather forecast to smallholder farmers and the agribusinesses that are serving them, and also providing climate smart advisories. And just recently, we moved also to now provide extreme weather alerts to really smallholder farmers and also the rural population to really help them what they have to do. So we started sometime around 2010, but the first 5 years was more experimental. But currently, we've reached about 3 million subscribers across 10 countries in Africa. In terms of the technology, it's optimized for the whole of Africa, Southeast Asia, and Brazil. But we currently have physical offices in Ghana, Nigeria, and Brazil, and we have our headquarters in Sweden. So that's what we do at Ignitia.
Can you tell us a little more about how this technology has impacted the farmers?
Right. So I'll use a typical use case of what's currently happening in Ghana. So Ghana this year has faced 2 extreme weather situations. At the beginning of the year, there was huge flooding that was caused by the overflowing of the hydropower dam that we do have. And this caused a lot of farmers and rural livelihood destroyed just because of flooding. And just after 3 months, there was drought. And in this space, you get to know these are farmers who are under rain-fed agriculture. They've gotten the seeds, they've gotten the fertilizer, but they don't even know when to plant. Because now planting date predictions is something that is very key for smallholder farmers because it's like a binary, a 0 or 1. If you don't get it right, you lose everything. So it's not like there's nothing in between. So we had the opportunity to really provide these messages to these farmers. And you get to know that for farmers that we are really supporting with weather forecast, is really helping them to plan their farming activities from planting, when do they have to apply fertilizer. Because it's not just about having the fertilizer, but some of them might just apply the fertilizer and just the next day there'll be heavy rains and then everything will run up. So advising them that, okay, you were due to apply fertilizer. However, there's a heavy rain coming your way, so do not apply the fertilizer, or it's advisable not to do so, is what we do. So we do help them with information so that they can plan their activities along the line. And for the agribusinesses that do serve them, they're also using this information to plan their logistics. When do they cut goods from the farm to their warehouses, and at what point, or even the varietal selection that they have to make, because we need to predict to let you know, for example, the cessation period for this season is short. So you don't need to go in for late maturing varieties because your investment might go waste. So helping them to know what crop varieties that you have to make, it all dependent on you making a very good weather forecasting. So these are the different ways that we are using the technology to really support smallholder farmers and agribusinesses.
Thank you. You should connect with Acumen.
So actually, I worked for a company before joining Ignitia, Isoko, and Acumen was one of our funds. So the Sarah story she was talking about, I know about that because it was from Isoko.
Thank you. Sana, so for a small company like yours that has an outsized impact, what policy changes do you want to see happen to make it easier for you to scale?
Yeah. I feel like the first thing that I just want to, the short story version is like businesses like ours are set up to fail the way that the industry is currently set up. And I think like Jacqueline said it really, really well, where if Acumen is, you know, one of the biggest slow capital funders in 2024, like that's great for them, but that's pretty sad. So, you know, when we say outsized impact for businesses like ours, does anybody here know how you judge like good black pepper? No? Head wiggles? How do you tell? Like, is it in nice packaging? Is it more expensive? Is it more dark black? No? Okay. Completely clueless faces. Cool. So basically, the British took a ruler and they made holes in the ruler. And if your black peppercorn fell through the biggest hole, best pepper. Second biggest hole, we'll name it Telecherry pepper after their favorite vacation destination, also fancy pepper. So like it had nothing to do with quality or flavor. So when we started working in like spices and delicious spices 7 years ago, we were essentially working with farm partners to define how do you actually grow delicious, regeneratively farmed pepper and then scale that. And most of the farmers, because of 3 generations of being under colonialism, didn't have access to that like indigenous knowledge or information. So we're working with them to figure out, oh, actually black pepper needs to be vine ripened, or it needs to be sun dried, or sometimes it needs to be shade dried if the sun is too harsh. Then it needs to be immediately vacuum packed so it can get to your shelf and then actually taste delicious. So all of this work is going on behind the scenes to make your pepper taste really good for the first time in 200 years. That's one. And then 2 is these farm partners are usually taking on predatory loans because they've never had access to thoughtful, slow capital. So we're having to then give them pre-harvest financing, usually 6 to 9 months before the spices ever reach us. So I'm tying up all of my very precious cash as a small business, giving my farmers, 0% interest working capital to work with, that then gives me cash flow problems. There's been huge conversations about regenerative agriculture here over the past 2 days. To actually get our farm partners certified, ROC certified, regenerative organic certified, would cost me about $250,000, which is a huge ask to ask a company like mine to actually do. It's not viable. Similarly, if we want to get on grocery store shelves across the US, we basically have to give them the first 2 rounds of their spices for free, or pay $35,000 in slotting fees on average. Again, like not a viable ask for a business like ours. And like, I just want to level that a business like ours, where I am the token, I'm totally the industry's show pony. We've gone super viral, like we're really cool. Everybody knows about us. We're like in the media a lot. So if the like exceptional businesses are not set up for success, I like really don't know how the rest of us are supposed to make this happen. So my thing would be a lot more working capital, a lot more funding, a lot more actually understanding what farmers and entrepreneurs on the ground need. So often I'll talk to like trendy, slow capital funders who'll be like, oh yes, but we need a 5x return within 3 years. And it's like, our product grows in the ground. That is not viable. Do you know how things grow? So that's my like really fiery response to that.
So everybody wants more money, needs more money.
Slowly.
Yeah. More money in the right forms.
Yeah.
Like we receive donations through 501c3 for our non profit driven activities like Pure Science with Smithsonian. We have a big mangrove replantation activity. We have had to kind of move or shape and form in order to slide into the right forms of people that want to invest into impact, and also it takes a few minutes to even learn what is a sea cucumber anyway. But
I still need I need to learn more about.
Yeah, well, we will definitely go down that road together. But I agree completely. You have to be a little bit insane and a lot of bit passionate to go down these roads, which obviously we all care deeply about. And
I would actually clarify that it's not more money specifically though, because I feel like it's
just
like
more than $0.
but like Costco's entire model is like taking working capital, reinvesting it while they sell their stuff, right? So like all the big businesses have access to these tools that like make business work. I think we're just asking for the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Give us that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I love talking to crazy, passionate people. So this was a great chat. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you to everyone who's here. Yeah.
Lunch is served in the Global Cafe, located in America Hall 1. Don't forget to stop by What's Working Way to meet commitment makers and members of CGI Greenhouse.